here today as a volunteer for Keep the Sheep at the Gidgegannup show. In a nutshell, Keep the Sheep is focused around the live export of sheep industry and the bans that the Labor government are putting in place for it, which are set to take effect in 2028. We've tried working with the Labor government to not put a ban in place, but they basically don't want to talk to us, and they just rushed through with a guillotine motion. So we are now working at changing the government. A lot of the issues around the live export industry are centred around animal welfare, but this information that people go on is predominantly from 5, 10, 15 years ago when the industry was completely different. Since then we've had heavy self-regulation and improvements from the live exporters, and we've introduced incredibly stringent regulations, not only on the journeys over to the receiving countries but at the receiving ports and the processing facilities over there. So you've seen a lot of foreign countries have to go through a lot of development and improvements and applications in order to meet our strict standards. But now we have the highest animal welfare standards for live export in the world, and so countries like New Zealand, which have just reopened their trade, are now copying all of our standards because ours are so good. They have an incredibly good mortality rate, they have an incredibly good morbidity rate, and they are generally cared for as well as possible. In many cases, probably better than you can achieve on property. It's really important that we keep the industry open because that is fundamental to keeping our sheep industry feasible. So without the live export industry, there's no competitive market, and our sheep prices have dropped from, say, $165 a head a few years ago, before inflation mind you, to values well below $40 a head, down to perhaps $5 a head. So essentially, as sheep farmers, we cannot keep farming sheep when we're not receiving prices that cover our costs, let alone return a profit. And for that to happen, it needs to probably be well in the order of $100 to $200 nowadays with the cost of living increases. So by removing the export industry, it's completely unfeasible for us to continue farming sheep. So that's why we are fighting so hard to overturn this legislated ban. And it's obviously not just the farmers, it's everyone involved. We've got shearers, we've got truckies, we've got stock agents, and then all of those people who live in rural communities, they have partners that work in town, they have kids that go to the school. If one person loses their job and it's no longer viable for them to be there and they move to the city, you're not just losing one person from the community, you're losing a whole family. And our rural communities really can't afford to take those losses. So it's incredibly important that we keep the sheep, that we back our local agricultural industry, and we keep control over our food security and our rural communities, because without them, this nation will be eating very vastly different food, and it won't be great.
So what you're trying to say here is, it's safe to say that the government is attacking a classic area of life in Australia when they are attacking the sheep industry.
It certainly is, yes, and the scary part is that now the animal welfare groups have said that they're moving on to the cattle industry. So it won't obviously just stop at the sheep industry, it will keep going on until there's virtually very little diversity in our agricultural industry left.
Are they aware of the significance to job losses that could come from this?
They are, although they have highly undermined it and underestimated it to serve their own agenda. But certainly our state Labor government disagrees with the federal Labor government as far as the impact it will have, but even they are not providing any significant support to overthrow the ban.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
And keep the sheep alive, everyone.
Keep the sheep.
Hi, my name's Mandy Matthews. I grew up on a sheep and beef farm in New Zealand, and that's where my love for sheep started, and I've been in Western Australia for over 11 years now, and I fell in love with the merino sheep and how they fit into WA farming systems, and currently I work as a sheep husbandry contractor but also as an onboard stock person on the live export vessels. And this, to me, keep the sheep is so important because I've seen the impact that it has had on farmers throughout Western Australia with my sheep husbandry contracting business, and the decline in sheep numbers and the mental health of farmers since the announcement of since the phase out committee came in. And to me, I've had first-hand experience within live export with my work as an onboard stock person, and I've had the opportunity to see in market and see the positive influence that we have had with SCAS, which is Exporter Supply Chain Assurance System. Live export is something that I'm extremely proud of. Australia's live export, especially under current Australian standards for the export of livestock. Australia has world-leading animal welfare standards, but in such a highly regulated industry that is our live export industry, we see this put into practice. Everything from the exporter to the ship's crew to the importer, they have all put a lot in, and they all take pride in positive animal welfare and making changes all the time. And with having Australia's live export trade, we are able to have that positive influence not just on Australian animals but other animals in these countries, and they want live animals. And without this, without having a skin in the game, we don't have the opportunity to influence positive animal welfare inside these countries.